Out of Order Gun Rights Podcast, episode 26.
Welcome to the Out of Order Podcast, your window into the firearms community, exploring those shaping the future of our rights and protecting our lifestyle, laws, legal cases, activism, and self-defense in a candid and honest podcast for our brothers and sisters in arms. Here's your host, James Kalita.
Thank you for listening to the Out of Order Gun Rights Podcast. Please head over to the show notes page, outofordrjameskalita.com/26, where you'll find links to our sponsors, a place to sign up for our email list, and links to our guests' pages. Today's guest is Jay Factor. Jay is a firearms law researcher, and his research was instrumental in helping a previous guest, Mark Cheeseman, put his right to carry case together. There's a lot of things when start looking into New Jersey firearms laws that don't make sense. The letter of the law doesn't match up to exactly how it's practiced, and Jay's research has really shed some light on how these applications of the law have come to pass, what led to the starting of New Jersey gun laws. Jay and I talked for an hour and a half, and I broke this interview into three parts just to kind of keep to that half-hour format. So, here's Jay.
Jay Factor, welcome to the show.
Good to be here.
Yeah. So Jay, you are a firearms history researcher. Would you tell us a little bit about how you got into that?
Well, just like everybody who's listening to this, I got into it because I was basically told I couldn't have a 2C58-4 permit. And it's funny because I went down to the police station to turn in my application in 2006. The guy working behind the counter thought I was buying another handgun, and I was looking for another handgun permit. And then he saw it was a 2C58-4 permit to carry application, and he said, "What do you need one of those for?" And I looked at him through 4 inches of bulletproof glass, and I said, "What do you need 4 inches of bulletproof glass in a police station for?" And it went downhill from there. Took him about 2 years to process the denial.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in the interim of that 2 years, I had followed the statute and the code to the letter. I had passed the NRA shooting qualifications. I had also passed the shooting qualifications with a certified instructor from a police academy, from a police department in the next town over. Had certified me through his course. I got a call one day that they had taken my shooting qualifications out of my application and destroyed them, and I had to go to the Monmouth County Police Academy and qualify there, which is quite hostile when you're a 2C58-4 permit applicant to walk into the police station because you definitely get the stink eye. And I had to take a 900 question test on my guns. And it's interesting because the statute says you're supposed to turn in a list of all the handguns you intend to carry. So I turned in a list of all 37 of my handguns. He told me I had to shoot 300 rounds with each handgun, and I could only pick two. So I think I took a H&K expert with me, and I took a Glock 23. And in the test, it asked me what kind of action the H&K expert have. The H&K expert is very similar to that H&K, their SOCOM, their Mark 23. It's almost the same gun, except it doesn't have the threaded barrel. But it's a single action. So the test question was, what action is your H&K expert? And I wrote single. And he fails me and says, you fail. It's a double action only. H&K only makes double action only. And I said, my friend, you're 100% wrong. This is the Navy SEAL SOCOM gun. They didn't want double action only. They didn't like it. And H&K made, especially for them, a single double to get them to approve the weapon. And that's what this is. And, of course, after 15 minutes of looking at the gun, he realized I was right, and I pass. I go out onto the range. I shoot the first 60 rounds. It's basically the police qualification course that you have to shoot. It starts with 3 standing, 3 kneeling, and anyway, I shoot 100. He brings the target in and he goes, "You shoot first thing he says to me is, do you want to be a cop?" I said, "No, I don't want to be a cop. I just want my permit." And he said, "You shoot fast. Can we turn off the timer and get out of here?" And I said, "Sure." So I ended up shooting 300 rounds with each gun. I'm sorry, 180 rounds with each gun. I had to shoot 3 qualification courses with each gun. That's what it was. So 360 I shot. I think I scored a 98.2. As I started shooting faster at the end, I might have whiffed on a couple pulling them. 360 rounds, a lot of rounds to shoot.
Yeah,
half an hour. So anyway, I ended up shooting like a 98.2. You know how they ask for a letter of need when you turn in your application?
Right.
All right. I want you to, I don't know if you've got a pad in front of you or not, but I want you to mark that down, the letter of need, because that's very important with the way the proposed new code is written. I write a 300-page essay on the Second Amendment and the Second Amendment in New Jersey. And I basically laid out everything that came out in Heller 2 years later. But when I got to the Superior Court, it was Kreisman. He's retired now. He was super hostile, wouldn't let me talk. The prosecutor kept objecting to everything I said. But all I heard was Berinsky and Sicardi and Priest. Berinsky, Sicardi, Priest. So no matter what I said about the Second Amendment, no matter what I said about the 14th Amendment, it didn't matter to these guys because Sicardi, Berinsky, and Priest were all that mattered. At the time that I finally made it to Superior Court, there was no Wheeler. So the prevailing case of the day was Berinsky. Now, Berinsky basically is the case that took Priest and Sicardi and put them together and said, short of an act of God, there's not one of you guys in New Jersey that's going to get a carry permit. If you're not related to someone working in the legislature, if you're not related to someone on the state police, if you don't donate tens of thousands of dollars to somebody's political campaign, you're just not getting it. And that's really, if you want to read the code, that's really what the code says. So I was always very good in history. I wouldn't consider myself a history major at all, but I was always in advanced history courses, and I think that it was always a hobby of mine to read about it. So I probably knew more about the Second Amendment just from being a Revolutionary War aficionado, that it was very natural for me to decide to attack. First of all, I need to find out what Berinsky and Sicardi and Priest were, because quite frankly, I had no idea. When you go to apply for a permit as a citizen, and when I say citizen, I think what everybody needs to understand is there's only 2 qualifications that decide whether you get a permit to purchase a 2C58-3, an FID card, or a handgun purchase permit, or a 2C58-4 permit to carry. There's only 2 standards. The definition is you're either a fit element of society, which means that you have never been convicted of a crime, you have no multiple calls from the police for domestic violence to your property, you're not a drug user, you're not an alcoholic, you've never attempted to overthrow the government, so on and so forth. They're all enumerated in 1966 when Sills drafted the new gun control law. It's very specific on what you can be denied for. And if you don't have any of those denials, you're considered a fit element of society. That's what 1966 Attorney General Sills called the people of New Jersey, and told the people, don't worry about this permitting process, because if you're a fit element of society, you meet the standards and you qualify for a permit to purchase or carry. He came out and said that you can get a permit to carry right in the A165 debate. So the other disqualifier is you're an unfit element of society, which means the police know who you are. You have a criminal history. They've been to your house for domestic violence. You're an alcoholic. You've got three DWIs. You're a drug user. You have four pot arrests and a cocaine arrest, whatever it is. Those are the disqualifiers. There is a public health and safety clause that was designed that if you didn't meet the enumerated standards, but you were known, I think Sills said, you've escaped the clause of the law several times, but they knew who you were for multiple reasons, that they could deny you, and then it was the judge's job to say that you weren't on the disqualified list. So, I was angry because, as far as I was concerned, under the Second Amendment, I was a fit element of society. I own a home, I pay taxes, I had a wife, I had 3 kids, I went to work every day. And I started doing what came natural to me. I went and read Sicardi, I went and read Priest, I went and read Berinsky. Except when I read, I don't just read the book or the case, I read all the footnotes, and I make notes of all the footnotes, and then the next day or the next week or the next month, I track down every single footnote. Sometimes it's hard to do, but that's really where you get all the information, especially if you're from New Jersey like we are, because what New Jersey likes to do is come out with a sentence. Let me give you an example. There is no individual right to carry weapons. That sentence in the original 68 case of Burton v. Sills had a lot of footnotes on it and some really vague citations about the statute in Northampton in 1328 England. Except if you go back and read the statute in Northampton, the statute in Northampton in its bizarre English wording is exactly the same as our statute. If you weren't a criminal, you could carry as long as it wasn't to terrify the people. And that terrify the people statement back then was really a comment about being a criminal and coming in to rob people. But, the Burton court took it and ran with it because it sounded good. Except when you chase down the footnotes on that, there's 2 things that I stumbled across in the following 4 years that say that shouldn't have even been in the Burton case. The first is that 1798, William Patterson recodified the laws of New Jersey. So up until the Revolution, we acted under what was called the laws of Allenson, who was the Attorney General at that time. And there was a lot of English common law involved in the laws of Allenson that after we split from England, we got rid of most of it. And when Patterson recodified the laws, one of the laws that he put in there was no statute, no court decision, no publication, et cetera, of England or Great Britain shall ever be read in a court of New Jersey at any time. Which means that all this bullshit about what was going on in England 1328 doesn't matter in New Jersey after 1776. There's a whole reason that we separated from England, and one of the reasons we separated from England is because we didn't like the common law fact that we had to pay taxes on stuff we didn't want to pay taxes on. One of the reasons we have the First Amendment is because we didn't want to pay that 10% tax to the Church of England that the founders thought we were going to instill in our new Constitution, that we would establish a religion and then, put a tithe or a tax on it and say that you had to pay this. That was the concern. It was really more about money specifically than any religious implications. It's funny because the founders were not fond of Catholics. There was not a big Catholic contingent in America at the time, maybe in Maryland.
Yeah.
But when they put that in there, that wasn't designed that wasn't designed as a protection against Catholicism or anything else. It was really a protection against not being taxed by the government saying, you're going to have to be with the Church of America, and you're going to have to pay 10%. Anyway, long story short, I get denied for my permit, and I read every single thing there is to read on Sicardi, every single thing there is to read on Burton, every single thing there is to read on Priest, everything on Berinsky, and all of their citations. So any one of those 4 cases that cited another case, I read those cases. And any of those cases that cited other cases, I read those cases. And I read all their notes. And I started to make copies of stuff and file stuff away on hard drives. And, after you do this I really started writing the letter of need in 2004. I started on Sicardi after I was denied in 2008. So I've got, 10 or 14 years of just reading and filing this stuff away that I kind of, when people start to talk, judges, courts, lawyers start to talk about what the gun law in New Jersey means, and they have catchphrases, I know where the catchphrases came from, and I know most of them are full of shit. Yeah, right. And I don't mean to sound coarse, but that is really what we're dealing with here. This thing couldn't be more made up, more of a scheme, more illegal. And as we go on, as the listeners start to hear how bad this thing is, people are going to start to get really, really angry. And that's why I said before, make a mental note of that letter of need, because that's going to be important going forward in arguing. You know how the Mark Cheeseman just put out on that Facebook post that the legislature wants urgent necessity to be written back into the administrative code.
Right.
And that's now with the superintendent in the administrative procedures hearing time. I guess they have like 60 days that you're allowed to send comments into the superintendent about why the law is bad, which was never done, by the way, in with the Sicardi rule. Anyway, so that's how I got to this phone conversation. Listen, I'm like everybody else who's listening to your podcast. I'm a gun owner because I love shooting guns. It's fun. I like teaching my kids. I enjoy taking my wife to the range. It's a date for us. And I have secondary motives too. I've always thought I needed a weapon just in case. And that's the way I grew up. My father didn't have an AR, but my father had a shotgun and a Springfield 30-06 under the bed, 2 handguns in his top drawer of his dresser. That's how I grew up.
Yep.
When you asked him what they were for, it's like you never know. And we never knew. We never had a problem. But as you grew up, whether you have a problem or not, you still think to yourself, there might be a day that I might need that, and I should have it. It's no different than going out and buying an insurance policy as far as I'm concerned. So aside from the fact that I enjoy the shooting sports, I enjoy teaching my children how to shoot and still do go to the range with them often, aside from the fact that I enjoy having a date night once in a while with my wife and taking her to the range, I've always felt since 9/11, and you remember the shooting in Mumbai? 5 guys with AK-47s went into Mumbai and took over that hotel, held Mumbai as to you and me as Bombay, but it was in India. They came across in a boat from, Pakistan. 5 guys with an AK-47 held Mumbai down for 5 days. Killed, I don't know how many people they killed in the hotel, but a lot. Yeah. I've always thought since 9/11 that, we just threw $10 billion at TSA. They're not coming on airplanes anymore. They're going to do something else. You put that together with, everything else you see on the news, it doesn't make it. It's very plausible that you could do a Mumbai here and have a coordinated attack. If you had 19 hijackers, you could have 20 guys with AK-47s in 4 different locations in New Jersey, and you could shut down this state for a week. And you know that. You know the state police response would be set up a perimeter. First of all, they wouldn't get there for 3 hours. SWAT team wouldn't get there for an hour. Quantico wouldn't get there for 3 hours. They could shut this state down. So I've always thought that after 9/11 there was going to be a Mumbai-style attack on a Hurricane Katrina level. That it's going to be more than 5 guys. That's just, and I'm allowed to think that. I don't think that makes me paranoid. I think it just makes me a good citizen, that I look what's going on the news, and I think there might be a rainy day someday. I should probably be ready. So aside from liking shooting sports, I've always felt like it was my duty to be armed. So that's how we end up here. I don't think my story is different than yours, right? I don't think my story is different than too many other guys I see on Facebook, on Firearms Syndicate, on Cheeseman's pages. I think they're all the same, don't you?
Yeah. That is the universal story. We like guns and we want to protect our life, liberty, and family.
Thank you for tuning in to the Out of Order Gun Rights podcast. Please tune in tomorrow for part 2 of J Factor's segment, and please head over to the show notes page, Out of Order James Kalita /J, and we'll see you next time.